Time now for Focus. For several years, French politicians have been championing the idea that homegrown talent and manufacturing are key to solving the country's unemployment woes. The Made in France stamp aims to boost the economy by reviving old industries and by injecting a dose of patriotism into consumers. But for simple and basic goods, it's not always easy to justify the high costs involved when producing on French soil. Our team have been to one northern factory which is quite literally trying to pull its socks up in order to get back on its feet.
Kindy's business venture started here back in 1863, and it may well end here in 2017. The company leads France's sock market, but has had a major cash problem. In January, the courts gave it 6 months to find €3 million or go bust and lose most of its 130 jobs. Charles Damon runs the factory. It has been in decline for the best part of 30 years.
I think there were 400 machines here and over 1,000 workers. Today there's about 10% of that workforce left. Most employees here are locals. They come from the village or other places nearby. The vast majority have been working here for a very long time. The average age is high. Their parents worked here. Their grandparents worked here. They hope their children will work here, but that's not very likely.
The equipment here is state-of-the-art. The machines are recent. Production is between 700,000 and 1 million socks a year.
That's why we don't make money. People just walk around.
Today, there are only 30 workers on the factory floor. If Kindy collapses, they're afraid they might be the first to go.
I was 16 when I started here, and back then you came out of school and got a job straight away. I'm 55 now. 600 people used to work here. Then in 1987 a first wave of people got laid off because new machines started to replace workers. Then there was another wave in 1988, and it just went on like that, sadly. I think someone will invest in the company, but I'm afraid a lot of people will get fired. Since we're not competing on a level playing field with other countries, it's really difficult to get by.
Kindy imports over 90% of the socks it sells from Turkey, China and other countries. The company only produces its most expensive items here, technical sports socks, or those with intricate patterns that need to change with every season. For regular ones, costs are simply too high.
A sock that is made in China, if you use the same ingredients, the same thread, and the same specification, is no better or no worse than a sock that is made in France. It is simply a lot cheaper to make. The cost ratio is around 1 to 10, so it's really difficult to be competitive.
Made in France is a coveted tag, but when it comes to regular socks, it's pure marketing.
You won't find this type of technical sports sock in Asia. But clearly, when it comes to a classic black sock, well, it's really about saying, I want to buy a French-made product because I want to support French jobs. It's more about the intellectual concept than the product.
Can that be enough to save these jobs? Nathalie Crouzet, Kindy's CEO, believes so. She has been at the helm of the company for a few months and fights every day to save it.
The bank will never guarantee the payment, so I'm going to have to tell him that I'll pay up front.
She believes producing in France can create value and is still viable.
Obviously, the cost of production is higher in France than it is abroad, because labour is more expensive in France. But again, that is not a problem if you know how to produce a high added value product, and if you know how to sell it for a higher price. We really want to keep these jobs in France. We believe they're very important. Obviously, we would make a lot of profit if we produced high-quality socks abroad. But this industry has been here for centuries, and we must make sure it stays here.
For the village of Moliens, Kindy is crucial. According to the mayor, 20% of the 1,160 inhabitants depend on the company.
It's really tough around here. The risk is that people might leave. There are some houses for sale in the village. No one will buy them. The whole village is at risk. The shops, the businesses. People are simply not going to stay. They're going to leave. And in the end, the village will die.
Kindy itself will probably be bought or invested in. The question now is how many jobs will actually remain.
Well, you can, of course, watch that focus report once again on our website. For more on this story, though, I'm joined now on set by Marc Lemit, a partner at Ernst & Young. Thank you very much for being with us. We saw, first of all, in that report, the difficulties facing one traditional sock maker in France. Made in France is clearly a very nice idea, but is it actually working?
It's working for some brands and industries. It's working very well in luxury. It's working in air and space. It's working in the food industry. It's even working in the textile industry when textile has gone industrial. The parts of the airplanes are made from textile woven in traditional machines. Nobody knows that. But in that case, the Made in France will not compensate for the lack of competitiveness of the French industry. And it's a problem because France could do so much better if it could lower its labor costs, simplify its tax system significantly, and most likely in the next few years.
Just on that point, why are the costs of production so high in France?
Because of labor charges, because of the choices made by France in the past 2-3 decades, and really no real improvement has been made in the past 2-3 years. A bit of tax rebates and some rearrangement of the tax system have been made, but not sufficiently to compete against Deutsche Qualität, the made in Germany, and other productions from Europe. There's no way to compete product versus product against very low-cost countries, and especially when the export markets are so important. The only way out is to go with very high value-added products, technology-driven, with a big difference. And in that case, it seems that it's a struggle for the company. And France has simply to lower its labor costs below the German labor costs, simplify, again, the business environment also, because this is not the only problem this company probably faces in this particular part of France.
Let's just go back, though, to the sock manufacturer featured in our report. How can manufacturers like that one, traditional manufacturers, stay loyal to their old techniques, their traditional roots, while being at the same time a 21st century profitable company?
It's very difficult. It requires investment, so it requires cash to innovate, to go to market, to find its way into the e-commerce channels. At certain sizes, companies simply cannot cope with the massive needs of investment that giants from Asia, from Africa now, from Eastern Europe, and have been able to go. So it's probably difficult. There are ways, because France can do much better. It's got a magnificent logistics system. It's in the center of everything. It's got talents and skills, as shown here. It's got the technology, but simply it cannot compete at the cost of an hour of work by manufacturers and workers on this floor. It's just impossible, and the high unemployment rate in France shows it that it's the case for industry, manufacturing, but also in parts of high volume services.
What could change, do you think, for these made-in-France companies after May's presidential elections, and which candidate offers the best or the brightest future for such companies?
Well, everybody speaks about industry and the loss of industry, and the fact that 1 out of 7 jobs only, now it's the lowest ever rate of manufacturing jobs. But as far as going with the flow of globalization, working as a country should work in the current business rules and compete in markets. Probably the Emmanuel Macron and François Fillon have the platforms, I'm not saying that the others are not talking about the economy and don't have economic plans, but those two have particular features with very different dimensions that will that are saying at least that they will lower costs, they will simplify the tax system, the social, the labor laws, and that's probably what French companies of that sort need, and also foreign investors and also high technology companies. So it's probably that way to go.
Okay, Marc Lemit from Ernst & Young, thank you very much for coming in to talk to us there.
Thank you.